I'm Anna, I'm 28. For years I thought I was the lucky one, the good daughter, the one who was appreciated for being responsible, dependable, the one they could count on. Turns out I was just convenient. It started slowly, like most traps do. After graduating with my degree in finance, I didn't move across the country or chase a dream job. I stayed in my hometown to help my family. My mom had some health problems, my dad had just switched jobs, and my younger sister, Chloe, well, she was the wild one, parties, impulsive moves, and lots of emergencies that needed bailing out. So when I got my first full-time job at a mid-sized financial firm, I offered to help just until things settle. I said that was 5 years ago. 5 years of paying their overdue bills, just this once, co-signing a loan just to improve their credit, and even covering part of their mortgage when Dad's hours were cut. I didn't mind. Not really. Family helps family, right? That's what they always said. It became normal. I'd wire money at the beginning of each month, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. Somehow by the end of the year I had transferred over $8,000. But every time I tried to talk about boundaries or asked when things might change, the guilt set in like clockwork. Chloe's struggling mom would sigh, massaging her temples. We're not asking for much. Dad would add, you're so lucky to have a stable job, Chloe would say. Like my success was some accident she had helped cause. So I stopped asking and just kept giving. I was working 50 hours a week, living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, skipping vacations, while Chloe posted pictures from spas and rooftop bars with captions like, self-care is essential. I remember once she asked if I could spot her $300 for her car payment. She was going to a concert that weekend and didn't want her account to dip too low. I sent it, of course I did. But something shifted 2 months ago. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had driven out to my parents' house to drop off groceries and help Mom with some paperwork, the usual. They'd had people over the night before. Wine bottles still lined the counter and the air smelled like stale cigars and cheap perfume. I was in the hallway when I heard them, my dad, Mom, and Chloe, sitting around the kitchen table. I hadn't realized they were still drinking until I heard the clinking of glasses and the lazy drawl in Dad's voice. Then I heard it clear, cruel, like a slap. She's too stupid to realize we've been using her for years, they all roared with laughter. My legs froze, my hand tightened around the grocery bag I was still holding. For a second I wondered if I'd heard it wrong, but then Mom chimed in. She thinks she's being helpful, bless her heart. That girl would co-sign a loan for a stray cat. More laughter. Then Chloe added, she thinks she's part of the team. It's honestly adorable. I backed away slowly, heart throbbing in my chest. I didn't confront them. I didn't cry. I just walked out the back door, got in my car, and drove home. I don't remember the drive, just the silence, the way betrayal feels like static in your ears, the way your stomach drops, not because you're surprised but because deep down you always kind of knew. I didn't sleep that night or the next. I kept replaying it in my head, every dollar, every favor, every time I canceled a plan or tightened my own budget so they could get through a rough patch. All of it a joke to them. And yet when the mortgage withdrawal was scheduled that Friday, the $5,600 payment I'd agreed to cover for the next 3 months after Chloe accidentally maxed out Mom's credit card, I hesitated. Then I opened the banking app and hit cancel. It was a small click, but it felt like cutting a rope I hadn't realized was wrapped around my throat. I didn't say anything, not yet, but when the payment bounced and the bank called them about the missed mortgage, that's when things got interesting. And the knock on my door the next morning, that was just the beginning. The knock on my door came at 9:12 a.m. I was still in pajamas, coffee halfway to my lips when it happened. Loud, hurried, not polite, the kind of knock you hear when someone isn't visiting, they're coming to demand. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. There on the other side stood my mother, no makeup, hair pulled back in a messy bun, and that particular fire in her eyes that used to be reserved for teachers who gave Chloe bad grades. She didn't even say hello. What did you do? She snapped, pushing past me without waiting for an invitation. Why did the bank call us this morning saying the mortgage wasn't paid? I blinked. Good morning, Mom. Don't play cute, Anna, she hissed. You said you'd handle it this month. Your father is furious. Chloe's in tears. I walked back to the kitchen, keeping my pace calm. I poured my coffee, even though my hands were trembling slightly. I canceled it, I said simply. It's not my mortgage. It never was. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. But you said. I know what I said. That was Before I heard you three laughing about how stupid I am for helping you there, it was silence, a rare heavy silence from my mother, so I continued. You really thought I wouldn't hear you? I was standing in the hallway, every word, every laugh. I heard Dad's exact sentence. And yours and Chloe's. Her face paled slightly, but only for a moment. Then the mask came on, the one she wore during PTA meetings and church social. She folded her arms. You're taking this too personally. We had too much wine. People say things that wasn't wine, that was honesty. For a moment she looked like she might actually apologize, but then the switch flipped like it always did. The guilt card was played, the words rehearsed. Do you even understand what we're going through, Anna? Your father has been stressed beyond belief. Chloe's been trying to hold it together for this family. We're not perfect, but we're your blood. You don't just walk away from your family because of one mistake. One mistake, I said, stunned. It's not one mistake, Mom. It's years of manipulation, of using me financially, emotionally, and then mocking me behind my back. She sat down at the table suddenly, looking tired. Do you think we asked for this? Do you think we wanted to depend on you? No parent wants that. You didn't ask, Mom. You expected, and when I gave, you made it seem like it was never enough. Do you realize I haven't bought a new pair of shoes in 2 years? I've skipped vacations, worked overtime, ate canned soup for weeks just to keep up with your emergencies because you're better off than us. She shouted. You're single, no kids, no husband. Your money is just sitting there. It's not just sitting there, I snapped. It's mine, and even if I was a millionaire, that wouldn't give you the right to drain me dry. A pause, then she tried another tactic. Fine, if you want to be selfish, be selfish. But you should know, if the mortgage isn't paid in the next 10 days, we're at risk of foreclosure. Chloe and I are both on the title. You're not just hurting your father, you're ruining your sister's life. I looked at her, really looked at her. There was no regret in her eyes, no remorse, just entitlement disguised as concern for themselves. Never once had they asked if I was okay. I said nothing. She stood up, smoothing her cardigan like it was armor. You think you're making some grand stand, but all you're doing is burning bridges. Family forgives, Anna, but family also remembers. I followed her to the door. That's exactly what I'm counting on. When I closed the door behind her, I didn't cry, not this time. Instead, I grabbed a notebook and wrote one sentence across the top of a blank page. Everything I've done for them, starting now, I take it all back, because here's the thing about being the stupid one: you see everything eventually, and once you do, you stop waiting for apologies. You start writing your own ending. 3 days after Mom's surprise visit, I got a text from Chloe. We need to talk, please. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the screen for a while, the familiar knot forming in my stomach. There was no apology in her message, no recognition of what had happened, just that vague manipulative tone she'd perfected since we were teenagers, the kind that sounded innocent on the surface but always came with a hook. I didn't respond that night. My phone rang 6 times in a row. Dad, Chloe, then Mom. I muted it and kept reading the book I'd picked up at the library. It was the first time in months I'd read for pleasure, without the weight of guilt whispering in the background, but silence only made them louder. The next morning I got to work early, hoping to focus. Around 11 a.m. I stepped into the break room to grab a coffee. When I came back, my phone had 5 new messages, all from Chloe. So you're just going to ignore me now? I know you're mad, but this is ridiculous. Do you even care that we're about to lose the house? If it gets foreclosed, Mom and Dad will lose everything. I'll lose everything. We're family, remember? I almost laughed out loud at that last one. Family, the same family that used me like an ATM, the same people who laughed about how stupid I was for being generous, and now they were drowning. And suddenly I was their life raft again. I didn't reply again. That evening there was a knock on my apartment door, not frantic this time, gentle. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. Chloe, her makeup was smudged, her eyes red. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there like she expected me to hug her or invite her in. I didn't. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I leaned against the frame. Go ahead. She took a breath. Look, I know we said things that night. It was dumb. We'd been drinking, but come on, Anna, you know we don't really think you're stupid. I raised an eyebrow. You think I'm just imagining it, that I made it up? No, I didn't say that. She backpedaled. Just people vent, people say things they don't mean. You didn't sound like you didn't mean it. She looked down at her shoes, then back up, her tone shifting. Fine, maybe we were ungrateful. I'm sorry, okay, but you've made your point. Can we move on now? Can you just help us pay this mortgage at least this once, and then we can figure out a plan going Forward, I almost admired the audacity. You want me to forget everything, pay $5,600 and just trust that suddenly everyone's going to change? It's not like that, she said, voice cracking slightly. Mike and I are behind on rent too. I've maxed out 2 cards. Mom's a wreck. Dad's not eating. You have no idea what kind of stress they're under. I stared at her. Do you remember when I was working 60 hours a week and still picking up your kids every Friday because you and Mike needed a date night, or when I co-signed your car loan and you didn't make a single payment until it was repossessed and my credit tanked? That was different. No, I said calmly, it wasn't. You've all been leaning on me for years and I let you. I told myself it was love. That's what love looks like, right? Sacrifice, but it wasn't mutual, it was exploitation. The moment I stopped being useful, you started panicking, not because you love me but because I closed the tap. Anna, we're not perfect, neither am I, but I didn't laugh when you were struggling. I didn't call you stupid when I helped you. She was quiet, then really quiet. I opened the door wider just for a second. You should go. Are you really going to let the house go into foreclosure? She whispered. I didn't answer. She took a step back. This isn't who you are. I met her eyes. Number, this is exactly who I am. You're just seeing it for the first time. When the door closed, I leaned against it and exhaled. It wasn't easy. Everything in me wanted to run after her, to fix it, to say fine one last time, but I didn't, because they weren't just asking for money anymore. They were asking for my silence, my continued obedience, my continued sacrifice, and I'd sacrificed enough. The foreclosure notice came 2 weeks later. I didn't find out for my family. I found out because the mortgage company sent a duplicate letter to me, since I was still listed as an emergency contact on their paperwork, a detail I'd forgotten about. I stared at the envelope, a strange calm settling over me. 30 days to vacate if payment isn't made in full. $5,641.78. Interest included, due immediately. I set the letter down and made a cup of tea. There were no frantic texts that day, no tearful voicemails, just silence, like they were hoping if they didn't acknowledge it the problem would go away, or maybe they were waiting for me to break. That had always worked before, but I didn't. Instead, I started reviewing documents. I pulled up old bank transfers, loan agreements, co-signed car payments, even the utilities I'd paid for their house over the years just to help. It was all still in my email, receipt statements, screenshots of frantic late-night messages asking for help, the digital paper trail of my slow erosion. I made a spreadsheet, not because I planned to sue them or demand reimbursement. I knew better than that. They didn't have anything to give, but I needed to see it, all of it, in black and white. Total $47,82344. That number hit me harder than any insult ever could. Nearly $50,000 not spent on something I loved, not invested in a home or my future, but quietly siphoned away to hold together a life that never included me. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had let it get this far. Then I remembered something Chloe said last year. She had been bragging at Thanksgiving about how she was so smart to get Mom and Dad to put her on the house title years ago, just in case anything ever happened. I remembered her laughing, saying, "Let's be honest, Anna, we'll never want this house anyway." And she was right. I didn't want the house, but I wanted something else now, freedom, and maybe, just maybe, I wanted them to finally understand what it meant to stand on their own. The next day I took a long lunch from work and drove out to the county clerk's office. It took all of 10 minutes to confirm what I already suspected. The mortgage was in Mom and Dad's name, but Chloe was on the deed, joint ownership. Interesting. On the drive back my phone rang. It was Dad. I let it ring, then it rang again and again. I finally picked up on the 4th call, more out of curiosity than concern. His voice was hoarse, tired. "Anna, we need to talk." I didn't respond. "The house we got the notice. We don't have the money. Your mother's been crying for days. Chloe doesn't know what to do. She's scared we all are." There was a long pause, then softer he added, "We shouldn't have said what we did that night. We were drunk, stupid. It was cruel, and I'm sorry." I sat in the parking lot listening to the man who raised me finally acknowledge what happened, but even then, even in the apology, it wasn't about me. It was about fear, about losing the roof over their heads, about consequences. "Do you remember my 24th birthday?" I asked suddenly. There was a pause. "What, you all forgot it?" "Chloe called me that night asking if I could Venmo her for sushi. Mom told me she was too tired to bake a cake. You and I didn't speak for 3 days because I told you I didn't want to help with the car insurance that month. He didn't respond. That's the thing, Dad, you only call when you want something, you only say sorry. When it's already burning down, I've spent years setting myself on fire to keep you all warm. I'm done. His voice cracked. Please, we'll lose everything. No, I said, you'll lose the house, not everything. You'll still have each other. And with that I hung up. That night I emailed the mortgage company and officially removed myself from all emergency contact lists and communications. I was no longer a participant in the lie. I was no longer their safety net. Then I did something small, quiet. I lit a candle, took a long bath, read a book, ate an expensive dessert I used to avoid because money's tight, and I smiled. Because they hadn't realized yet the real mortgage they'd lost wasn't the house, it was me. The first weekend after the foreclosure notice expired, I didn't hear from them. No calls, no messages, no updates, just silence. You'd think it would have felt peaceful. It didn't, not at first. For years I had been conditioned to their noise. Mom's guilt trips, Chloe's constant emergencies, Dad's disappointed sighs. Their chaos had been the background music of my life, and now the silence felt strange, like standing in a room after a storm with furniture overturned and glass on the floor. I kept waiting for the next wave, but it never came. Instead, Monday morning brought something else, a message from my aunt, my dad's sister Linda. Just wanted to check in. Heard from Chloe that the house might be gone soon. Is everything okay, sweetheart? That was how I found out Chloe had started calling family members, and in typical Chloe fashion she'd twisted the story. According to Aunt Linda, I had cut them off without warning, leaving them homeless out of nowhere. There was no mention of the $47,000 I'd spent over the years, no mention of the drunken insults or the months of gaslighting. Just the revised family-friendly version. Anna abandoned us by Tuesday. I was getting passive-aggressive texts from distant cousins. I just don't understand how you could turn your back on your own parents. Not judging, just concerned. Your mom is a mess, you should call her. I didn't respond to any of them. They hadn't been around for the endless nights of financial scrambling, the emotional drain of being everyone's solution. They didn't know what it felt like to realize your own family didn't love you for who you were, just for what you gave. But I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was something far more dangerous. Clear, I hadn't cut them off. I had unhooked the chain, and now they were stumbling without the crutch they'd leaned on for too long. That Friday I left work early and drove past the house. I didn't park, I didn't go in. I just looked. The yard was untrimmed. Weeds were poking through the flower beds Chloe used to force me to weed for her when she had migraines. There was an old mattress leaning against the garage, a moving truck out front. The windows were open. Inside I could see boxes stacked in the living room, furniture half wrapped in plastic, and Chloe pacing on her phone, her free hand flailing in frustration. I couldn't hear her, but I didn't need to. She was unraveling. They all were. I should have felt guilty, but instead I felt nothing. Just the truth, sharp and simple. They were finally living the life they'd built without me holding it up. That weekend I sat in my own apartment, staring at my vision board, something I had taped together on a whim months ago. In a rare moment of hope, there were photos of quiet beaches, a little bakery I'd always wanted to visit in Maine, a sleek laptop, and a blank page that just said, "Start my own." It had been a dream, something far away, but now I had something I hadn't had in years. Space-time resources, no more surprise bills, no more last-minute babysitting, no more emotional hostages. I made a cup of coffee and opened my laptop, and then for the first time in a very long time I made a choice just for me. I applied for a small business license, just a name for now, a concept, a beginning. But it was mine. The next day I got an unexpected email from the mortgage lender, not about the family house but about the credit monitoring alert tied to my name. Apparently Chloe had tried to take out a new credit card under my identity. My jaw clenched. I read it twice, then opened my password manager. I reset everything: bank login, credit alerts, even my old Venmo account. I filed a report, notified the credit bureau, and sent Chloe one message: if you ever try to use my name again, I'll see you in court. This is your only warning. 10 minutes later my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then I blocked her again. Because the game had changed. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about control. And I was taking every piece of mine back, every dollar, every boundary, every piece of peace they'd stolen. And yet I wasn't done, not quite. Because they still didn't know what I had done 3 months earlier, back when Chloe begged me to co-sign another loan. Just for a new used car I'd said no, and she had lost her temper. We hadn't spoken for days, but quietly on my own I'd taken that moment to finally protect myself, and I was about to remind them exactly what that meant. The knock came at 7:03 p.m. on a Thursday, not loud, not frantic, just persistent. I knew before I looked who it was. I hadn't spoken to any of them in almost a month after the credit fraud attempt. I'd blocked every number, locked down my finances, and started truly living life on my terms. I'd picked up an online course in business law, booked a solo weekend trip to a cabin upstate, bought the softest blanket I'd ever owned, the kind I never would have allowed myself before, because there's always something more important to spend on, but peace has a price, and mine had finally been paid in full. I opened the door slowly, Mom, Dad, Chloe all standing there like a misplaced parade, tired, out of place, and holding a folder. I immediately recognized the mortgage documents. They didn't say anything at first, just stood there shifting uncomfortably. Then Chloe spoke, eyes glassy but voice sharp. You need to fix this. I didn't flinch. Fix what? She held up the folder. The bank says we're officially foreclosed. The lockout date is next week. We have nowhere to go. You knew this would happen. You're right, I said calmly. I did. Mom stepped forward, then her voice cracking, Anna, this isn't just about the house. This is about your family. We're not perfect, we've made mistakes, but we're your blood. I took a deep breath. For the first time in years I didn't feel guilty. Let me ask you something, I said. If I had continued paying the mortgage and Chloe had kept using my name for credit and Dad kept calling me only when he needed money, would you all be standing here today apologizing, acknowledging anything? They said nothing exactly. I whispered, this isn't about love, it's about control, and now that it's gone you don't know what to do. Chloe scoffed, we just need help. One last time. That line, one last time. I'd heard it too many times to count, and it was never the last, so I stepped aside, motioned for them to wait, and walked back into my living room. I pulled a small envelope from a drawer. When I returned to the door I handed it to my dad. What's this? He asked, eyeing it suspiciously. Something I did 3 months ago, I said. Back when you asked me to help Chloe with her car loan. And I said no. That was the first time I ever really said no. And it scared me, but it also woke me up. He opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a notarized letter, a legal statement confirming that I had officially removed myself from all financial ties to the family. No shared accounts, no co-signed anything. I'd even legally disassociated my emergency contact status from all institutions connected to their address. My name wasn't tied to anything of theirs anymore. I had it certified, I said, so there's no confusion. Chloe's jaw dropped. You went behind our backs and did this? No, I said softly. I finally went behind my own guilt. I did something to protect myself, something I should have done years ago. Mom's hands trembled. But we're being evicted, Anna. I know. You're just going to watch us walk away with nothing. You watched me drain my bank account for 5 years without blinking. Chloe's voice cracked into that sharp, bitter edge. You're heartless. I smiled. Remember, I just finally realized my heart deserves protection too. Then I said something they didn't expect. Maybe the most shocking thing of all, I didn't cancel the mortgage out of revenge. I canceled it because you all needed to finally learn how to stand on your own, and whether you do or not, that's no longer my burden to carry. They didn't speak, just stood there as the street light cast long shadows behind them. Finally I closed the door. This time I didn't cry. This time I didn't collapse on the couch and wonder if I'd gone too far. I just walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of wine, and turned on music. Peace doesn't always come in soft moments. Sometimes it comes in a locked door, in a boundary held in choosing yourself even when they call it selfish. Over the next week I heard bits and pieces. Chloe moved into a friend's basement. Mom and Dad were staying with Aunt Linda. The story they told everyone painted me as cruel, cold, heartless. I didn't defend myself because the people who matter, the ones who know what real love looks like, they already understand. And the rest, they were never on my side to begin with. My life isn't perfect now. I still have lonely nights, still sometimes question myself, but I wake up every morning knowing one thing: I'm no longer the girl standing in the hallway holding a grocery bag, listening to her family laugh about using her. I am the woman who walked away and never looked back.